Welcome, everyone, to The Last Jedi of Us, Season 8, Dark Fate.
The
Yes, it
Rise
is
of
that bad.
Abby.
Or as I like to call it, or this part specifically, Last of Us 2.8 HD Epilogue.
Yes.
Now, folks, there are endings that some would argue salvage a movie or project or video game. There are endings that ruin an otherwise amazing project.
There are
As for what
endings that just end stuff if we're going for the middle.
As for this ending, this is the kind of ending that takes any hopes you had of a bad product being good, shoots them, chops them into pieces with a bloody axe, incinerates them with fire, revives them only to laser them with a magnifying glass projected from 10 different suns, and then burnt to a crisp, then dipped into acid. Yes, the very crisps are put into acid, and then that vat of acid is put into a rocket ship and shot off into the cold, vast reaches of space for it to die alone.
But Jova, you didn't think of one thing though.
What?
I have no hope. So there.
This game can breathe in
I
space.
never. The game can take away my hope if I never had it to begin with.
Exactly.
Also, Dwib, but we technically already had the ending Dwib's described, but it just insisted on continuing.
It's
Basically, I do not sugarcoat at all. Believe it or not, the thing
I have good news though. The game is almost over.
That is both a good thing and a bad thing, because to a lot of people, the ending is one of the most, if not the most insulting thing about this game. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyway, welcome, folks, to the final gauntlet. This is where the game pretty much throws everything it can at you, minus the Rat King. I mean, okay, on the plus side, you get, like, a nice gun with an infinite silencer. You think that's great, right? Right?
It is actually. It actually is a very useful gun if you know how to use it well for the stealth purposes. Like, since you can actually use it. However, since you only get it at this point, obviously there's not that much ammo you can get for it. So don't just go rambo with it.
Pretty much. Oh my God, Ellie finally getting a pretty nifty weapon. Oh my God. You were pretty much right in front of him. Now, for those of you wondering, no, the game does not expect you to feel the least bit sorry for the Rattlers here. Like, seriously.
No, Tibby!
That's the thing, they still say the names of the others, as you're gonna see later. That's the thing, Joe.
Even though the Rattlers are literally into trafficking, not only human.
But Shiroi, these are not just video game pawns, they're human beings! They have feelings, they have families!
Yeah, and you still tried to portray them as some of the most horrifically, cartoonishly evil people in this entire universe. In-game universe, I should say.
You know what's amazing? The Rattlers have only
been... But don't you see, Shiroi? There's no heroes or villains. Everybody is the hero of their own story.
Oh, shut up with that crap.
That's
I get that villains, like a lot of villains, wholeheartedly believe that what they're doing is right, but that still ain't right. Shut up.
Not only that, but the game is not really committed to that sort of message here, because constantly Ellie has been doubting herself on whether or not this is worth it. And mind you, Ellie did actually regret killing Abby's friends. Mind you, I guess it was to show that Ellie still had humanity, yet the game tries to pretend like she is the worst of the worst, despite the fact that, unlike
because
Abby...
the game pulled the pregnant card, though?
Well, Dwibs, now that I think about it, that scene is pretty stupid. First of all, isn't it just nice that Mel happens to be wearing a coat that covers her pregnancy, even though, as we see in Abby's campaign, literally before Ellie showed up, she wasn't wearing it. She had no reason to be concealing her pregnancy. Second, why don't Owen and Mel lead up with the whole she's pregnant thing? Like, sure, it may not work, but maybe just try and use it. Third, didn't the Abby story suggest that Mel hates Abby? So why is Mel all of a sudden going, oh, I won't sell out my friend? Fourth, send her after Abby. It's not like Ellie will find Abby because you know where Abby is going, the Seraphite Island. You know, the place that you two know is going to be destroyed by Isaac and the rest of the gang. So, if anything, Abby would have just as good a chance. Hell, 5, as far as Owen and Mel knew, Abby was dead, seeing as how that's pretty much what they were saying between themselves.
I mean, as far as Mel defending Abby, it could just be because they're from the same community. They may not like each other, but they do kind of have to cooperate to survive. You know, it's kind of the whole reason they're together in the first place. But the rest of it is complete horse.
That's the problem, though, Shuri. Remember, Mel and Owen were planning to leave the WLF anyway, so if it was about camaraderie, well, that point kind of is out the window, seeing as how, as far as they knew, Abby was still loyal to the WLF, who probably wouldn't have been happy with them at this point.
By the way, don't do what I'm doing in this gameplay section, because because I'm stubborn. I'm basically trying my best to just, do Metal Gear style stuff, just because I love playing like that anyway. However, by far the easiest way to get through this section is to... Did you notice that there was an infected that's, in chains? Mm-hmm. That's a common thing. The Rattlers apparently chain infected for their own, and they keep them there like animals for their own amusement or something.
Get this, Troy.
Well, no, we saw earlier that they used in the trap that Ellie was in. They used the infected they had tied up there to try to infect her without knowing she was immune. So I think that's why they're there. I mean, I guess amusement is probably part of it, but I think a lot of it is just torture.
Sure, but they also
for their victims. I mean,
what you should do, however, is is basically, Shiro, you can actually free the infected from his chains. You can either you can get close and untie the chain, or if you don't want to risk it, you can just use your silencer gun and shoot the actual lock of the chain. That way the infected will go straight for the Rattlers, and you can just sit back and watch the infected eat the Rattlers.
Honestly, I think that would be well deserved, and that's something I'd do if I was playing this game.
Yeah. It's by far the easiest way to go about this section. This is just me being stubborn.
Wait, oh my god. You mean the game actually has a neat mechanic involving the infected again? Well,
I know, right?
It's nice that they finally remembered that at pretty much the final bit of the game.
Well, to be fair, we also had...
It's a small thing, but it's actually something I find quite interesting.
Well, to be fair, we've had this before. We had even bits where I've used the noise of the infected to draw infected into the WLF guys.
Oh, no, Pedro. I get that. What I mean is, the game kind of forgot to do interesting stuff with the infected for a long time until the end, to the point where they feel so sparse and in between. Mm-hmm. Honestly, up until we get to the final scene, this actually feels like the game playing like classic Last of Us again. How whacked up is that?
Well, not really. Last of Us was very linear in its level design, whereas this this level is far more open than Last of Us 1's levels would ever be.
Well, what I mean is, it actually feels like classic Last of Us in game and feel of it too. I guess. I've actually had a hand at playing this game now, and I gotta say, maybe it's just a muscle memory, but the controls feel kind of clunkier compared to the original Last of Us.
Not really. They feel pretty much the same. If you actually play the original, because they pretty much feel the exact. I mean, the game controls. I mean, the way the characters move are basically copy-pasted when you get right down to it. But
maybe it's just overall feel or something to it, who knows. But hey, that's the least of the game's issues here. But, that's the funny thing about the Rattlers, Shiroi. We've only seen them for a few minutes, and already the game is portraying them as even more evil than we originally thought the Scars were. Because the Rattlers
to be fair,
humans and infected.
Well, to be fair, human slavers are a thing, so it's not. I can't even call this cartoonishly evil, because unfortunately there are human slavers in the world for as much as it pains us to.
I get that. I think though, when we talk about cartoonishly evil, it's how the Rattlers go about doing it, though, that it feels cartoonishly evil.
They are a little hammy sometimes, earlier on.
Yeah. Seriously, the Rattlers are very hammy, especially Fat Geralt. Oh yeah, that's right. You know that huge guy who described?
Yeah,
Abby as-
he's played by Travis Willingham. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah?
okay.
Yeah, it was interesting. They forced Travis Willingham to describe a character played by his wife as a person with arms like mine and built like an ox. Like, it's just...
I'm sure that must have got a lot of laughs in the studio, honestly.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because when you look at Laura Bailey is pretty skinny. So...
You know what's sad? More people actually like that fat girl.
Laura is much more similar in physique to Ellie, in particular, than she is to Abby.
Yeah.
So,
You know, fun fact actually, the reason people call him Fat Geralt is that he literally looks like Geralt from Witcher 3, but thicker, essentially. And he's essentially a meme, and yet a lot of people say that they like him better as an antagonist than Abby. From just that one scene wonder. Also, how is Lev not dead from when he literally pummeled the kid down? Like, I'm pretty sure Lev should at least be in a coma for the next few months, if not.
well,
dead
that's the
from that
thing.
hit.
Well, that's the thing, Jova. Ever since he got knocked out in that little final bit where he played as Abby, he never wakes up ever again. Forgot the rest of this game. So
maybe
for all we know, maybe he is in a coma.
Is quick question. Is the music we're hearing being listened to by the characters, or
No.
is the soundtrack just having a normal one?
No. This is actual music that the Rattlers have around. There's a stereo somewhere around the level that the
Characters are listening to it.
the Rattlers love music while they're patrolling, I guess.
It's just because it's quite different from everything else we've heard. So I don't know.
Well, that's intentional, Shiroi.
No, I know, but
So basically, these guards are following Blade Trinity logic. You know, you're supposed to, as a job that requires good hearing, you plug in your bloody earphones.
I guess.
Well,
having a blind person run security.
My guess is Dwebs. Maybe they've never really had an intruder up until this point, so they've grown to a point where they've grown complacent. Maybe they're just getting to they just don't really even expect it to happen anymore. They've grown complacent in their duty.
Maybe the Rattlers figure that, hey, you know, we're pretty much the only gang who are competent enough to be alive at this point in the story, so why not?
Yeah, well, honestly, you know, that bit you just mentioned there, Jova, you know, that's like the only way this game could have been written worse if it had David Goyer involved.
This is another section where you can do
I
it.
know you're gonna say comic books, Jova, but this isn't a comic book.
to be infected, you mean?
Yeah, this is another section where they are infected in chains. So if you use your silencer gun to free them and watch the wackiness. So
Basically, the Rattlers really have a hard-on for, like, you know, having the infected as pets, while also taking in people here and there. For what reason? I don't know.
She already theorized the
them as
torture. They're used for torture.
Since just because we've already seen it happen, that's the only reason that actually occurred to me.
Possible. Now, again, here's the thing. A gang that actually thinks to, you know, use and possibly weaponize the infected, interesting concept. That said, the Rattlers have even less development than the WLF and the Seraphites. And the Seraphites were already pretty much blank slates as it were, but the Rattlers take it up to 11. So much interesting plot potential, all just wasted because, well, really, they're essentially just padding that goes in between Ellie and her final goal of killing Abby.
Basically.
Unless she's not here to do that, I don't know.
You know,
well, we all know what Ellie is doing here. Remember,
Shuri, a vision of Joel is constantly torturing Ellie.
Which
so she's got to go kill Abby to
yes,
silence
because
the voices.
Because as we all know,
Spider-Man 2, where Dennis Leary keeps popping up.
It might as well be, Dwibs. It might as well be.
Because as we all know, killing somebody heals your PTSD. That's totally how it works.
No, it doesn't work.
You know, guys, you know, taking away the giant obvious elephant in the room. In the realm of entertainment, 2020's been very bizarre. You know, Sony releases you know exclusives of very varying quality. This game and then Ghost of Tsushima. Disney Channel here in Britain is coming to an end.
Really?
Honestly, Disney Channel went so completely off the deep end that you guys are better off anyway.
Yeah, basically, Jova, all Disney branded TV channels, Junior, XD, and Disney Channel, are going to be off the air here in Britain at the end of September.
Really? Why is that?
Well, two reasons. One, Disney Plus is a thing, and two, they couldn't come to an agreement with the cable and satellite providers to put the channels on, so they're just saying fuck it and ending the channel and moving everything to Disney Plus.
Well, it sucks to be anyone who is interested in like the animated shows and doesn't have Disney Plus.
They are going to move everything to Disney Plus. So I mean, hey, that's the but you know what the odd thing is though?
What?
Then there's that new animated show, The Owl House. That's actually I don't know if it's already.
It's pretty good.
I mean, it's only just starting to premiere around here in Britain. Before,
really?
Like barely over a month before the channel shuts down.
Huh.
So let me get this
guess
straight. The show
that's a
just
way
premiered in the
to-
UK, but you guys are already going to lose it and going to have to... Okay, interesting. This is because La House is actually pretty good, actually.
It could
at this
be.
point, I don't have Disney Channel anyway, so I'm just gonna wait till it comes on Disney Plus.
It could be a contractual thing, or it could also be a weird way for them to market the show. It's like, oh, if you want to watch the rest, have Disney Plus or something.
So Pedro,
That's most likely it. Yeah.
Yes, Jova?
I'm curious, what actually did convince you to not, take these guys out the fun way?
Because I was feeling Metal Gear-ish that day. I guess that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I might as well bring it up here. Might as well, better here than never. Why didn't this game have multiple rewards, or if you go for certain levels different ways? Like, seriously.
Well, there are a few levels that you can do that. Like there are like for example, when you're in Seattle day 1, you can if you avoid the gas station, there's an entire confrontation of enemies that you can entirely avoid.
Well, I'm talking more so in the sake of getting a different reward or maybe some different story here. Now, I know what someone may say. Naughty Dog don't function like that. Honestly, if anything, this game is just showing that sometimes people need to adapt their strategies to more modern statistics here and there. Modern problems call for modern solutions here and there. I mean, it disgusts me that I have to say this, but Beyond Two Souls felt more like a video game than this did. If only because
I think you're starting to get to a point where you're just, I don't know, here's the thing.
Hold on. Let me finish. Here's the thing. With Beyond Two Souls, yes, the very ending stays the same, constantly. But in between this or that, your choices actually could sculpt some of the narrative.
No, they don't actually, Jova. No,
actually,
they don't.
They do.
They don't, actually. The most you can get from a choice is a minor cosmetic change to a character model. That's the problem with Beyond Two Souls, Jova.
Well,
that's
they
the thing.
Actually no, they actually do change. You can change if somebody lives or somebody dies. Look, well, hold on, look. I am not saying that it's amazing, but you have to admit, it's more than what this game does, pretty much railroading you to every single little detail.
Okay.
It doesn't matter whether or not you kill this much amount of people or what.
Well, Jova, that's like 98% of all games.
Not just that, Jova. Here's the thing, Jova. There are plenty of games that, like Uncharted 3 does this, and I don't remember you complaining about that. Uncharted 3 is also one way, and there's no choices for who you can kill, you cannot kill. So it's not like, there's Last Guardian railroads you into a single path without a single choice of where to go. I mean, again, doesn't necessarily have to.
Part 1 is also pretty
A game doesn't necessarily have to be open world or full of narrative choices.
No. Nobody said it had to be open world, Pedro. Don't mix match words here. The thing is again, yes, those were also railroaded, but those actually gelled with their narrative. As we pointed out, the main problem with this game is that yes, while most games are railroaded, you don't feel railroaded with them because the gameplay actually gels with the narrative. Weird as it is, it actually feels like you do have an impact on stuff.
Well, you just answered your question then, Joe. In that case, the problem is not so much the structure, it's the narrative itself. If the narrative complied with the structure, then it wouldn't be a problem. It's more so a problem with the narrative than the structure itself.
Well, Well, that again goes back to my point. Why, again, I hate to say it, Beyond Two Souls felt like it understood the nature of that better than it. Oh, do not get me wrong. Okay, for as few as there were some things that you could technically craft to your want with the narrative or whatnot. If you wanted to choke out, shoot, I forgot the protagonist's name. She's that forgettable.
Jody.
Yeah, if you wanted to choke out Jody's parents, you could. If you wanted Jody to hook
Well,
up with Ryan,
here's the thing,
you
Jova. You can choke him, yes, but eventually you'll stop, and there you go. It's like it never happened anyway. So it's not like the game actually commits to that choice. You can actually kill him. Like you just briefly inconvenience him.
It's the same with the burning the house down. It doesn't really have any long-term repercussions.
No,
if I remember right.
No, it doesn't. Like once it happens,
the game gives you choices, but it doesn't, like as Pedro said, it doesn't carry them with you throughout the game.
Not really. No, choosing to burn down the house with the teenagers doesn't have any implication. Right after that chapter happens, it ends, and it's never brought up again. That's how most of the chapters in that game is.
You'd think it would, considering this kid is under FBI surveillance. But you know,
this game is
whatever.
full of this. I understand your case, Jova, but at the same time, unlike Beyond Two Souls, this game can actually be fun to play if you just take it from the gameplay perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Remind you, I'm talking about the game as a whole, Mike.
Even though Neil doesn't want the game to be fun, it can be fun. So, but
Jesus Christ, that's another thing. At least David Cage wasn't that pretentious. Oh my God, I actually complimented David Cage about not being as pretentious as someone else. That's how messed up this is.
And like I said, if you want to make your game not fun, I'm okay with that. But commit to that. That's the problem. You say that you don't think of this game as like a traditionally fun experience. Well, then commit to it. Much like Kubrick committed to the whole no conventional free act structure story arc with characters to it with 2001.
That's just the story arc, though. If Neil wants to tell this story and make it not fun, he should have made a movie or written a book, not made a bloody video game.
Like, say, for instance, Kubrick never flat out said this, what I'm about to say, but I'm assuming if he was into, because Kubrick never gave interviews because he was very private. He didn't like he was he was not flat out antisocial, but he was very shy and he didn't like giving interviews. He was very private about his life. But I'm assuming he probably would say something along the lines of, oh, no, 2001 wasn't meant to be a typical story with character development. It was meant to be more of an ethereal experience that I wanted to experiment with what you can do with the film medium and stuff like that. And that would be fine because he committed to that, you know, whereas Neil wants to, quote unquote, have challenged the idea of should a game be fun to be a good game, which would be fine, but he still made the game fun. He didn't commit to it. Say what you want about Death Stranding. Death Stranding committed to the idea of making a game that's not fun in the traditional manner. But anyway,
this goes back to my main point of why I compare this negatively to Beyond Two Souls. Like, don't get me wrong, guys. Look, it's still me. I still hate Beyond Two Souls, and I will recognize that when you stare at them strictly on a gameplay value, this game far outweighs Beyond Two Souls. The problem is that Beyond Two Souls felt like it understood the nature of being a video game better than this did. Beyond Two Souls gave you at least the illusion of choice. Don't get me wrong, it did not commit to it, but it at least gave the illusion of choice. This game can't even be bothered to do that because no matter what you do,
choice was never a main thing about The Last of Us anyway.
The issue is more that the narrative is bad. It boils down to the fact that the narrative is bad. If the narrative was good, people wouldn't mind the fact that they don't have choices. See, it's one of those cases where if you're gonna remove the player from the equation when it comes to the way the direction the story goes, then you better have a good story where that makes the characters relatable. Okay, I'm not in control of the character's decision, but it's a decision that I understand and can empathize with, and that would be fine. This game doesn't do that. Last of Us 1 did it, because Last of Us 1 doesn't give you a choice of whether or not you should kill the Fireflies and save Ellie. It doesn't give you that choice.
Last of Us 1 literally just presents the characters to you and says, okay, make of them what you will. It didn't direct you to feel... Okay, it did direct you to hate certain ones, yes, like David, yes. But regarding the main characters of Joe and Ellie, it didn't try to per se force you to feel a certain way for them. It presented their character profiles to you and essentially did make a good presentation for it. Joel's essentially a broken
Mateo!
bird.
No! Look, guys, Teo got killed!
Yeah.
Ellie
So
killed
may
Teo! Ellie killed Teo, sure, right?
So, again,
What now?
may I ask, why? Okay, this is another issue with that mechanic, but I'll get... actually, no. This is the reason why, I feel Beyond Two Souls is more of a game than this in the overall grand scheme of things. This game has mechanics that really clash with the idea of this being a game, because not only is NPCs calling out their fellow comrades' names or begging for their lives when they're pretty much the last one in the room rather melodramatic, but because of the repetitiveness of it, it pretty much takes away from it feeling like an actual proper project here. It's just something that, unless your game is well crafted enough, you don't do, because then it just becomes monotonous instead of actually soul wrenching or soul crushing here and there. Like, holy cow! Seriously though, the guys, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, the point of the mechanic was to supposedly make these guys feel more human, or supposedly is the case. We know the real reason is to make it seem like Ellie is terrible, because I don't recall this ever happening during Abby's campaign, with NPCs calling out the other names. Even when Abby was killing her own fellow WLF members.
Did it happen, Pedro? I don't quite remember.
No, I don't think so. But anyway, but that's beside the point, Shiroi. The point is that Teo apparently just got killed by Ellie.
Oh.
Remember, Shiro, that's Teo's real name, Mateo. And and that guy just screamed, Mateo!
Shit. We here at Squirm Comms are deeply saddened to report that that bitch Ellie has killed one of our members.
See, I told you Ellie was evil. See, I told you.
Wow, okay.
But
Neil was right. Holy shit.
But if you would like to be a replacement, write to us at we miss Teo so much, but please let me join your group at squirmgmail.com.
Goody. Anyway,
All right, hold on, Java. We're officially done. So it's time.
Okay, so let me just wrap up my case before we get it. Like, no doubt, most games are railroaded, but with this game, the railroad practically runs you over like a freight train because of how the gameplay does not mess with the narrative at all. And speaking of which, we are about to come to the crowning moment of that. Ouch. Thanks. You see that? Ellie just... Well, okay, yeah. She inadvertently freed those people. Sure, yeah.
Well, they were enslaved. They were imprisoned here to be slaved anyway, so good thing.
Hey! Have you tried to escape?
They don't know that she's immune, so.
The pillars? Head down to the beach. You won't miss it. She's probably already dead.
I wish she was already dead.
If only.
Yeah, there's too much of this game left for her to be already dead.
Now, you know.
Well, technically, we're basically 10 minutes away from the end from the end credits. So
Wait, serious?
Only 10 more minutes of game.
Well, I'd say okay.
Let me start
It's
by
actually 20 minutes.
I think Pedro means of gameplay.
gameplay. Well,
Okay. Sure.
remember, Jova. Like I've said before, 20 minutes of this raw are credits, so it's technically 1 hour that we're.
Look, I don't count it as ending until we.
Sorry,
actually hit the
it's
credits.
technically
I don't
40
care
minutes.
if
Sorry, that's what I said. Sorry, 40 minutes.
I don't care if it's 10 minutes of cutscenes until we get to the credits. It's not over.
Well, okay. I said that we were done with the gameplay. That's what I said earlier, anyway.
Sure.
All right. Let me start by saying something positive before we start screaming and ranting. This section from a directing and aesthetic viewpoint, is actually pretty striking. I actually really like for example, the final boss battle we're about to get against Abby, for example. For as bullshit as for the reasons that Jova is about to point out, is very well put together in terms of spectacle. You know, again, it's very reminiscent of the final boss of Metal Gear Solid 4. By
the way, guys, that's it for the Rattlers, by the way. As you saw, their base is now going up in flames.
Whatever, I don't care. At this point, I just want to get...
It's like serious unfortunate events now, where if something goes wrong, you have the building...
and of course, now we need an allegory for the crucifixion for some reason. Like, what?
This
this was a crucifixion, wouldn't their arms be spread out?
I guess. Ellie. It's just very reminiscent of those crucifixion fields, though.
Okay, Ellie, there she is. Kill her.
Alright, she's defenseless. All you have to do, all you have to do is take your machete and kill her. That's literally it.
She's gonna set her free to fight her because she doesn't think it's fair that.
No. It's not so much that she doesn't want to just kill her silently. She wants to make her suffer in the same way that Abby made Joel suffer. Which to be fair, I can understand. Remember, the whole idea is that, you know, Abby tortured Joel to death. She didn't just kill him silently.
Yeah.
So she wants to have her suffer the same way Joel suffered. I'm guessing that's the law, which I can understand at the very least. I don't sympathize with it, but I empathize with it.
Pedro, here's the problem. The game does not do a good job.
Av is a Jova, but we're not there yet. Hold on.
And there's Lev, who has pretty much 1 foot in the grave, so might as well be dead.
I mean, they imply that he's still alive, but Ellie's even about to basically do something that wouldn't make any sense for her to do if Lev was dead. So don't worry, Lev doesn't die. At least the game tells us that he's alive. At least.
Honestly, it's very unclear whether or not he's dead or alive.
I think she did just check his pulse, though, kind of briefly. I couldn't quite tell what was happening there, but.
Let me put it like this, right? Lev's in a case where if he's not dead, he probably will be soon.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, if Lev was dead right now, his body would be cold by this point, and Abby would feel that. So.
No. I get that. What I'm saying is that he's in a state where if he's not dead soon, he will be soon.
Dwebs, I don't know what you're doing over there, but I can hear it.
Well, it's my fan.
Oh, that's your fan? I heard something go.
Anyway.
No, that's the thunderstorm.
Oh, really? But weird sound for a thunderstorm.
Anyway, so get this right. Not only did Ellie let Abby down, but she's gonna let Abby carry Lev all the way down to the boats for some reason. Like, okay, I get maybe wanted to make her suffer, but why did she help her get down Lev in the first place? Why not?
Probably because Ellie doesn't have any qualms with Lev, really.
No, that's the thing, Shiroi. That's one of the big problems that I have with what she's about to do, but I'll get to it. But anyway, that's the thing, Jova. The game is kind of about to imply for that right now, this very moment right now, I know what you're going to bring, but this very instant right now, I'm guessing, Jova, they're implying that right now she's thinking, okay, maybe she suffered enough. Maybe I'll just go as well. See, she's even personable. Right now, my guess is she's thinking, okay, fine. I guess I'll just go. She's been tortured by this point, so I guess I might as well go as well because it's kind of dangerous here. But now,
she's like, oh yeah, I'm bleeding.
There you go. Now she gets another flash.
And blood reminds me of Joel.
Well, remember, Drip, that was the last time she saw Joel. She saw Joel all bloodied, so I guess it does kind of make sense, I guess.
Kind of, but not... I'm going to say not really, just because she's killed so many people. She's seen a lot of blood leading.
And there you go. Drips, now this is something that I'm going to ask you a question in a few seconds, so pay attention.
And
look at that. I love what happens. Yeah, so go. See, Abby has actually gotten over the whole cycle of revenge. She doesn't even want to fight Ellie at this point. See?
Even though literally the last thing she said was, "I never want to see you again." Like,
no, but that's the thing, Jova. Abby's so much better than Ellie. She literally broke the circle. Yeah, see? No.
She lets go of her grudges.
See? Ellie is the true villain of this story. See?
Sure you. I will point out exactly what is wrong with
Here you go. and now she threatens to kill Lev if she doesn't fight her.
You
Drips,
absolute-
now I'm gonna have to ask you a question. I'm gonna think you agree with me on this. Regardless of whether or not you agree with Joel's actions at the end of the first game, by this point, I'm gonna have to ask if you agree with me. By this point, Ellie has become a far greater monster than Joel ever did, or even could hope to be. Seriously.
I mean, with Joel's, you can say, you know, the actions were, were morally cloudy. I didn't agree with it, but I can understand why some people would.
Exactly. But Joel never threatened to kill a child. Ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that bloody. Okay, I won't spoil the exact twist, but it's like part of the 86,000 plot twist we got at the end of bloody Azran Legacy. Except it's more bloody and arguably done a lot worse.
It's
This
like
is just okay.
And I didn't like that to begin with in Azran Legacy.
Okay. Guys, I just want to point something out. When you think about it, when you honestly think about it, Ellie could have gotten her revenge if she had just stayed on her farm.
that too. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she wouldn't have known, but Abby would be dead if Ellie never.
But but that's the thing, Joel. She wants the personal satisfaction of killing her herself.
I'm not even gonna phrase it as like, attempting to kill a child, like just killing an innocent in general, like Joel. Like that
Okay.
wasn't Joel.
I highly
and-
doubt Joel would ever do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Honest to God, here's how I would have done the scene. Have it be that Abby accepts that, what she did was wrong, and Ellie's like, I'll save Lev, but you can just pretty much stay and rot. And Abby just accepts that. Like,
Yeah.
there. You could have had Ellie doing a good thing, helping Lev, nursing him back to life or whatnot, helping him like Joel helped her, while Abby finally getting her comeuppance for being the reason that this entire plot started, mind you.
I have to wonder how long Abby was hanging there for, because I feel like I should question this as much as we questioned Ellie's ability to fight earlier on.
Yeah.
Notice that Abby is actually a lot more skinnier and has lost a bit of her muscle mass. So, yeah, she's been up
She
there
must have been there for a long time then.
Yeah.
She's still able to fight Ellie. Like, this should be...
Well, she is a trained soldier by this point. She is a trained soldier, to be fair.
Pedro, all the training in the world cannot prepare you for a malnourished body here. She
I
should
guess.
be struggling way more.
It's like when you
Okay.
have a figure like that, you have to maintain it or, move away from it very slowly. It's not something you can just get rid of.
Oh, here you go.
Like,
Here we go, guys. Hold on. Go ahead.
Okay.
Jova, the floor is yours. Go ahead. Oh, I forgot. And Abby
There you
just
go, your
bit off
fingers.
2 of Ellie's fingers.
That is
Oh,
Those must be really sharp teeth.
that is another meme picture, but yes, now...
Alright, go ahead,
finally
go ahead,
Ellie is
Jova.
happy.
So yeah, we won. We killed Abby, right?
did we win? Did we really win anything?
No, Shiroi. Don't worry, Shiroi. Don't worry, Shiroi. The game is about to make its point.
Oh my god, are they both gonna die because revenge is just really
No,
toxic and
no.
terrible?
And then suddenly, Ellie had.
Suddenly, Ellie
Both
has a
shot in the
vision
head.
of...
A vision of
Suddenly,
Joel,
Ellie has the vision of Joel, and get this...
and she lets her go.
So, if basically, Shiroi, let me do a recap. After everything we did, after everything we went through, after everything suffered, after everything persevered through, played through, listened to, suffered through, Ellie just lets her go. Because Joel wouldn't have killed Abby. Gabe, do you even know who Joel was at this point?
I actually
Like,
don't really know how to describe it.
Shiroi? So,
Let me ask you a question, Shiroi. What
Yeah.
back when Joel suggested back in the first game when Joel suggested to Ellie, we don't have to do this. We can just go back if you want. And then what did Ellie respond to him? Do you remember?
No.
Jova?
I can answer that. After everything we've done, after everything I've done, just to turn back at the last second? No. We gotta see the shoot to the end.
No. The actual line. Well, you were close. Yeah,
In the cell, Peter.
you were close. You were close, Jova. The actual line was, "It can't all be for nothing." Well, apparently, Shiroi, Ellie no longer thinks like that. According to Ellie,
And Abby and Lev just died out in sea because there's no fucking way they could make it back.
not just that, not just that. You know what this means, Shiroi? This entire epilogue was a waste of our fucking time. We went all this way.
And a couple of fingers.
We went all this way to kill Abby, only to back out at the nice one. So very good. I do love it when a game wastes my time.
So essentially, Abby is a Karma Houdini. Again, I don't care that she lost her friends. We never see her really caring for her friends. Heck, if anything, if the story's to believe, she probably cared more about Yara and Lev than her.
I wonder what Dina's gonna say.
Okay.
about all
Okay. For in the interest.
Wait, hold on. About that, Shiroi, Dina left.
Okay, yeah, Dina.
Oh, what a surprise!
Okay,
Yeah,
in the interest
Dina
of
picked up and left.
In the interest of, at the very least, analyzing it properly, I would like to say that yes, audience, I do understand what the game is trying to convey. In the same way that, like Ellie, Ellie saw a vision of Joel, this time alive instead of dead. And that's when she decided that she wanted to find her own inner peace and just let go of this vicious cycle. Here's the problem. Like many people have pointed out, and I do mean a lot of people. I've seen plenty of people point this out on YouTube, and I do agree. Wouldn't the memory of what she lost would just, piss her off more? Like, I don't know.
Not only that, but let's consider this right here. Okay, some people have theorized that, in a way, because Abby is the new Joel, Ellie was really pissed off because she was about to forgive Joel, but never got the chance to forgive him.
But we're about to see that, Jova, so hold on. We're about to see that,
I
actually.
get that. I'm bringing it up regarding... Oh, sure, actually, I might as well bring it up later regarding Abby's death, but let's think, Pedro.
Let me guess. Because she lost her fingers, she can't play the guitar properly.
Congratulations!
Congratulations, Dwebs! You win! I don't even know what you win.
That wasn't what I thought was going to happen. I thought we were just going to have her playing the guitar, singing and crying to herself, and then fade to black.
Even without the... whether I looked it up or not, she lost 2 fingers, so...
That's exactly it, Dwebs. Remember, the guitar is the last physical link she has with Joel, because Joel was the one who taught her how to play guitar.
No, she can't do it anymore.
So there you go. See, so you see, Dwebs. Revenge. This is what revenge does to you. It leaves you empty and without
Revenge
any.
is not this black and white meal. Go away.
Okay. Hold on.
If Tio's watching this LP, Tio, is this what you mean by when you said in the past that dreams are cut off your fingers and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So.
All right. The last good scene of the game.
Whatever, I'm going to speak my piece now. First off, what Shirai said, revenge is not this black and white here. Again, some people do actually get the proper satisfaction of revenge. And you know what? Here's the problem here. Normally, the idea that revenge doesn't bring you happiness happens because the person actually does get their revenge, but then they realize it leaves them empty. But here's the problem. Ellie never got her revenge. She backed out at the last minute. But what does she have to show for it? She's miserable as all hell.
And alone.
So honestly, if anything, what the game ended up saying is that revenge actually is good for you. Just make sure to cut all loose ties so that nobody comes after you in vengeance and kills off your friends and family. Because Ellie's miserable, and she didn't get her revenge. If anything, it shows that backing out at the last minute did nothing for her.
So yeah, this scene...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
This scene actually takes place right after the party that we saw earlier.
God. Okay. So
basically, it finally shows the context of why Ellie got so angry at the beginning of the game, because you're about to see. Just listen, this is actually a very again, everything involving these two is good because this is the thing we care about. Go ahead, game.
And you need to stop harassing Jesse about my patrols.
Dina. She your girlfriend?
Nah, she's just a pretty much a plot device tool.
No, that was just one kiss. It doesn't mean anything. She just...
Will they, won't they, will
She's
they,
just
won't
a
they?
friend who's a girl.
That's the thing. They really kind of just became a bland couple after they had sex.
Well,
It's sad when they're being outdone by Netflix and Disney and Cartoon Network cartoons
I'm at. Yeah, okay, hold on.
and other ones that don't really spring to mind right now.
But I do know that she would be lucky.
I'm at the very least glad that they have Joel not give a crap about whoever Ellie is with. Because considering how Neil is so adamant about demonizing Joel in this game, I was expecting for him to make him into a homophobe now for some reason. Finally, fortunately he didn't.
That would be a little too transparent with how much he seems to hate Joel.
Yeah, basically she's saying, yeah, I wanted to... So Allie wanted her life to matter in that hospital, but yeah, Joel took that from her, like Whip said. So it's... Yeah. So there you go, we're finally addressing this.
At the very end of the game.
Pretty much.
Oh, yeah, out of this one, though.
If somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
Yeah, for the reasons we've already discussed. He cannot bear to lose her. He just cannot.
Not only that, but he may have done the world a favor considering how lousy the Fireflies were.
Yeah.
At least he's honest about it. Now, anyway. The damage has already been done, so...
That's the thing, Shiroi. It turns out Ellie was almost ready to forgive him.
Yeah, there you go, see? Hold on. Listen here.
I don't think I can ever forgive you for that.
But...
I'll try.
Very good, Shiroi. So there you go, Shiroi. Starting tomorrow, aka the day that he dies, it was supposed to be the beginning of the reconciliation process.
Oh,
Not only
how shocking.
Not only that, Shiroi, but it's kind of implied that the reason Joel wasn't acting like Joel the day he died was because he was in a good mood because Ellie was possibly going to forgive
Nah,
him.
that's bullcrap.
I know, right?
So what is this? Well, actually, no, Diabolus. Very foreshadowing.
So,
This actually did have foreshadowing.
so might as well go back to what I was talking about regarding Abby. A big theory is that because Abby had pretty much become the new Joel, supposedly Ellie forgiving Abby was her way of forgiving Joel. Mind you, that means that Abby, who didn't forgive Joel for protecting her for years, mind you, forgave... Ellie, who didn't forgive Joel for several years despite
Oh, Angela, I have to point
protecting
this out.
her.
And look at that. She leaves the guitar behind because now that she cannot play it, she's officially lost her final link to Joel. So Ellie is empty, alone, miserable, and she's just gonna move on and try to... I don't even know where the hell she's going, but at this point I don't even care.
Please
She's
give a
going
call.
to The Last of Us Part 3, if that happens.
Fortunately...
Please give us an award for our groundbreaking story.
They're zooming in
Well,
on
I
the
might end
guitar.
up
I'm not
getting
surprised by
awards,
this.
actually.
At least the music's nice.
Yeah,
Shiroi, Gustavo's guitar cannot save the sex scene between Abby and Joel.
no, I can't, but it's a very nice music nonetheless.
Well, I mean, you can at least buy the soundtrack so you can listen
Hey, and if you pay
without
attention to
having
the
watch
background
it.
there in the hay, right there, you can actually see in the distance Ellie going away. So apparently Ellie's going away somewhere, I don't even know where, and to be honest, I don't even care. Whatever.
You know, despite the manipulative
I have good news,
dialogue
though.
that came out of... Yeah.
I have good news. The
done.
game is over.
Yay!
Ah,
But
well,
we're not done yet. Oh, there is so much to... There's so much...
Finally,
Neil, and whoever the other person is.
finally, finally, the game is over. Thank fucking Lord. Jesus Christ.
So Shiroi, question. Do you feel it was worth it?
No.
Well,
I
that's
thought so.
well. That just goes to show.
Even with all the extra free time I have, given the current situation of the world, this was not worth it. My free time could have been better spent on something else.
Wow, just
I wasn't even playing it. Okay?
You know, I'm gonna pretend that I'm in my happy place.
wow.
I'm
just-
playing Ghost of Tsushima right now. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima
I'd rather
right
be
now.
cleaning
I
the
am
house.
not. I am not.
okay?
I am not
Okay.
talking about Last of Us Part 2. I'm playing Ghost of
Okay,
Tsushima. Sorry, Job, I can't hear you. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima right now.
The credits should have been just the
Okay.
foliage from Ghost of Tsushima.
You are now imagining Abby and Owen having sex.
Oh God!
Jojo.
Why would you do that to me?
That was
What
the
did
last.
you do? He recorded the gamey stuff at the most.
So, guys, that was the last of our Patience Part 2.
Yes.
Um,
Dwebs, you want to start?
yes. Okay. Okay. I'll start off with the positives because, like we said at the beginning of this playthrough, there are those. You know, I'm not going to be one of those critics
Sure.
that whines about the negatives throughout the whole thing and barely gives any mention to the positives, if at all.
Yes. Come along.
Go ahead.
I do enjoy the guitar, the guitar tracks that go on throughout the game. What little it feels like there are. The acting, considering what they had to work with, was very well done. Especially the kid playing
Lev.
Lev. Yeah, Lev. He did a very good job considering. I'm not sure if this is his first role or he played roles before. I don't know, but he left a very good impression.
Oh, look at that, Jova. Narrative designer John Scher. So apparently John Scher worked on this game.
He co-wrote Uncharted 4, bear in mind. Other positives. The gameplay, while the genre isn't exactly to my taste, it still looks very fun. Plus, the new additions to the game, give us some more variety compared to the first. And the graphics. While the graphics do look good, I don't think they're that much of an improvement over the PS3 game. But overall, I still think they're up to par at the very least.
Yeah. Not as good as Uncharted 4, though.
I think Uncharted 4 had a different style compared to this game, so maybe that might have...
That's the thing, Dwebs. Go back and watch the original teaser trailer from 2016. That trailer looks better than the final game, if you ask me. But that was because that was made by the Uncharted 4 art team, because this is a brand new art team, because the art team quit en masse because of Neil's cancel culture that he installed in Naughty Dog. But go ahead, continue.
And one more positive. I can't just repeat another.
How about the first Ellie and Joel flashback? Because I enjoyed that. That was a really good scene.
Okay. Almost all the scenes with Ellie and Joel in them are very nice to watch. Because mainly it's because we like them. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I liked them from the previous game, so yeah. So and it carries through here. So at the very least, Neil didn't forget how to write Joel and Ellie's character interactions.
That's one thing, I guess.
However, to start with the cons, it's a shame he forgot almost everything else. Okay. The main plot in and of itself actually has some good ideas. Trying to tackle the subject of whether revenge is can either be a good thing or if it just ends up creating this non-ending cycle of people just killing each other, and it would bring no joy to anybody. Least of all the person who's trying to take the revenge. Unfortunately, the game's execution is all over the place. It's like it's trying to do too many things at once, and not all of them very well, for that matter. Outside of Joel and Ellie, the characters introduced into this game range from there to why. There being just that's really just about it. There, I don't really have any strong opinions on them one way or the other because the game didn't really give me a whole lot of anything to judge.
That's not
why?
what the past 23 parts have told me with your reactions, but I digress.
Or why? Being that either characters that are characters that are either extremely cartoonishly evil that I figured I might as well be watching a cartoon,
And then they
Or,
expect you to like them.
or characters being incredibly difficult to get a grab on. Like,
Wait, what?
I have no idea how
What?
the fuck am I supposed to feel.
Are you
Wait,
fucking
what's happening?
serious? It said there in the
What?
credits, video editor Grant Vogtel. So Grant is working for Naughty Dog now? What the hell? Okay,
Can you elaborate
for
for-
those who don't know, you can check his YouTube channel. It's still there. Grant Vogtel was a YouTuber who was a gigantic fan of the first game. He literally made a video review of it called "The Last of Us Changed My Life." He's a gigantic fan of the first game. It's his favorite game of all time and all that stuff. And
he had to work on
apparently,
this.
okay, maybe it's a different Grant Vogtel. It can be.
What a coincidence.
But it would
though.
be an amazing coincidence if it's not.
You know, I gotta say, if it is him. And he
Okay,
did
sorry,
not like-
Debs. Carry on.
Yeah, Abby. This game tries to portray Abby as someone who is very loyal to her friends, but also has a very rough side to her. She's very brutal in her job. The issue is the way this game does it. It feels like there's two entirely different people who just shared the same name and body and voice.
A sincere thanks to all the dogs to Bruce Straley for his instrumental role in the development of The Last of Us and his years of contribution. Yeah, I'm sure Bruce Straley is very proud of. I'm sure Bruce Straley appreciates this game.
I just want to remind you guys, Bruce Straley originally said that this plot that Neil originally wanted the original Last of Us to be would not really work for this kind of scenario. I'm sure he appreciates you bringing back the scenario that he blatantly said would not work in this apocalyptic setting, Neil.
Go ahead.
But back to what I was saying. But that's the thing, though. I can't get a grasp on what she's supposed to be. Is she a kind-hearted person who loves her friends, or is she a sadistic murderer? I know there's some people in real life that can be that way, but in the context of this game, I don't get it.
The main problem is that the game
If
expects you to
if
like
she dies,
her.
is she a murderer?
Well-
Okay, let me elaborate, Dibs. She's a sadistic torturer and murderer, but she's one that the game wants you to like, so they throw in actions that
Yeah, but
completely
game, I'm
contradict it.
sorry. I draw the line at sadistic murderer.
Thank you.
I mean, that'd be like... I know I keep bringing up Leighton's hypothetical examples, but I mean, I think it's the most effective one. Say if, like, in the very first Leighton game, we find out that, I don't know, Leighton killed Luke's dad off screen or something. I find it hard to sympathise with Leighton in future games with that on my mind.
But don't
He
you see,
really
Dibs,
wanted to adopt a child, so instead of going the normal way, he decided to murder some kid's father so he could take the child.
but don't you see,
exactly.
Dibs, we get retcon that Luke's father was actually beating him and raping him or something, or
Yeah, that's
some
another
crap
thing
like
as well.
that.
The bloody retcons.
But don't
Wow.
you see?
Yeah, so Leighton wasn't the bad guy after all.
Okay, it's like I said before, retcons aren't inherently a bad thing. Sometimes they can be pulled off really well.
Mhm.
This game will not be an example of that anytime soon. I can tell you that much.
Nope.
From basically saying, "Oh, Joel was an evil bastard all along," to I know the first impression we gave you was that Abby is a sadistic murderer, but don't worry, Abby is such a gentle soul.
You know, that's the main problem.
Or Tommy, or indeed almost everybody in this game, apparently having their IQ halved over the years.
You know, Dibs, it's funny you mentioned retcons because, like I said, they did retcon the scene between Joel and Abby's father. Here's the problem: it's still self-defense on Joel's part. You'd think if they wanted to retcon something,
He was trying to kill Joel. What else is he gonna do? Let him kill him?
so essentially, Joel got killed because he did self-defense. It wasn't because he killed everyone else. It was strictly just because of Abby's father.
So, what's the moral of the story? don't do self-defense, otherwise you'll die in 4 years. That's a great moral, eh?
It's more simple, Debs. The moral of the game is revenge is bad and only leads to misery. That's the basic gist of it.
Unless
that's
you're
the thing.
Abby.
There's been plenty of acts of revenge done throughout this game, and they've been happy about it. So,
Yeah,
Abby in
and again-
particular.
Again, Abby pretty much got
Abby gets the preferential treatment.
That's the thing. Abby pretty much got off scot-free for what she did. Like, sure, her friends died, but we're not really shown that she really cares that much, honestly. Again, like I said, how much you want to bet she would have probably betrayed her friends for Yara and Lev, who she apparently loves out the gate.
Yeah, remember, Manny is part of the left, so he also betrayed Manny in a way. But all right, Dwebs, question: What are your thoughts on the overall structure of the story? You know, the whole, make us play all 3 days as Allie, and then play the exact same 3 days again, but from Abby's perspective. Plus plus the pacing itself of the story.
Okay, I can actually dig, playing, from 2 different perspectives. Because if the nature of game, if the main thing of the game is about revenge, then you might want you want to get different perspectives. From the one trying to get revenge to the one who's going to get or has gotten revenge. So we can at least understand both sides of the coin. It wasn't done very well, but I can at least see what they were going for.
All right, pacing.
What was the second you asked?
Pacing.
Pacing. This game's pacing is all over the place. Sometimes it's way too slow. Other times it's way too fast. It's like it's both extremes.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes we barely get to know a character before they die. Other times, by the time a certain point comes along, we're sick to death of a poorly done character, and by the time they die, it doesn't even really feel that much of an accomplishment.
Indeed. What about? Well, let you know you talked about that. Go ahead.
Anything else?
Anything else, Libs?
Well, I said I like the guitar pieces.
Yeah, you did.
For the
I'm
game.
guessing you don't like the scenes that they're connected to.
Well, that goes without
actually,
saying,
Joe-
most likely for the most part.
Well, actually, Joe, I'm going to offer criticism of the music.
Okay, go on.
Go on.
Okay, if it's not the guitar pieces, the rest of this music is just nothing but generic Hans Zimmer.
Maybe it's
The
the
depth of that kind of music, it's not fun to listen to. It's extremely forgettable, and it's all over the bloody shop. I've seen it dozens of times and done better, might I add.
maybe it's done by the additional composer that was brought in.
Or maybe Gus isn't good at doing that kind of music.
I guess maybe.
Yeah, and as for the scenes that the music's attached to, yeah, that's the thing about the scenes. The scenes are either dull, aggravating, or both. Because yes, it is possible to be both. Not. And those bloody flashback scenes with Abby. It feels like it feels like this should be in a different game half the time. Anything else that I might have missed?
Not that I can think of.
What did you think of the ending where where Ellie just lets everything go, but still ends up miserable?
It's rather odd to say the least. I mean, like, you spend the whole game building up revenge, and yet the character who we know the most about doesn't end up not getting revenge at the end, and in fact ends up being completely bitter and alone. I mean, I can get why, the very idea of revenge can end up spiraling to the point where everyone abandons you, to make sure that they and their loved ones are safe.
The problem is that it's such a last-minute thing. In fact, it feels like something that would have fit right into Game of Thrones Season 8. Oh, speaking of which, I did some research. Did you know that one of the books in Abby's collection of books is written by David Benioff?
And who's that?
One of the main heads of the Game of Thrones show.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Apparently, Neo may have been a fan of Season 8 of Game of Thrones. Go figure.
Go figure.
Well, I haven't seen that. so I need another example.
All right. Anything else, Dubs?
But well, no, that's about it for me, really. It's a game with good ideas, but it executes almost none of them well. And if it's just trying to do regular stuff, it either does it poorly, or aggravatingly poorly.
Okay, then. Shiroi, I know you have a lot to get out of your system, so I'm giving you the floor. Go ahead.
Sure. I'm actually going to start with the negatives, not because I want to be, horrible about this, but just because we're already on the negative train anyway. So I don't really want to switch to being, nice about anything to then immediately going back to being negative.
All right,
so
I'm being nice. Okay, now I can get back to crapping on this game.
No, I'm going to crap on it first, then I'm going to be nice about it. So I'm already crapping on it anyway. Okay. The narrative is absolutely terrible. It is very Beyond-esque. I would like. I said not too long ago, and like a couple of parts ago, even that I would have preferred it. I don't mind playing through the 3 days as these respective characters, but maybe if they were, you could select these stories from the beginning. It's like the Sonic Adventure 2 example that Jova gave, and that you'd be able to play the game to the end how you want to play it. Based on what you thought of Joel's decision in the end. We could have had a prologue with Abby and Ellie with their various lives respectively, and then you get to pick, all right, how do you want to proceed from here? I think that would have been, a lot better. Like, this is not... The Last of Us, Pedro corrected me on this quite early on in this. Like, The Last of Us is, like, the first game was a lot more linear than I remembered it being. This game doesn't actually benefit from being linear. It's actually a detriment to it. This should have been a game with options. Like, not every story needs to have it, but considering what this follows on from, we really needed to choose how we could proceed, especially with the ending. The ending was god awful. It's not the bit with Joel and Ellie, of course. Just everything before that. Everything was garbage. I don't know if somebody can correct me on this, but I feel sorry for anybody who has seen this game who has any kind of trauma issues, because I feel like it's something that's, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the portrayal of it here is pretty horrific.
Not only that, Jory, but pretty much everyone tied to Ellie except the baby is horrible regarding her and her PTSD. With Tommy, he guilt trips her despite the PTSD, and then Dina does that stupid as all hell, oh, if you love me, you won't go, otherwise I'm leaving you. Like, screw
Despite the fact that wasn't even necessary. Like, everything Dina said up to that point was completely valid, but then suddenly the writers thought, oh, we're just going to have her be manipulative now, even though Dina had valid concerns, and I don't blame her for leaving. Ellie deserves this, honestly, except she doesn't, because she was forced here by Neil, but she deserves it in context of the story. I hate this game. It's terrible.
It's like, even when this game has a good idea, they find a way to ruin that idea.
Yeah, and like I've already discussed, I wanted to mention this earlier, but we kind of moved along quickly from it. We've already discussed how Lev is purely here for plot, for narrative reasons. Yep. Not even to be a character, even though they're a perfectly nice person. They have no purpose in the story aside from making Abby look good and making the Seraphites making them look shittier. But a lot of the stuff in this game feels like that. A lot of the stuff you mentioned the pregnancy, that kind of feels like that in hindsight. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
No, I get what you mean.
No,
sorry, go ahead, Pedro.
They make Mel pregnant specifically for the purpose of having that scene where Ellie, oh my god, she was pregnant when she kills her. That's literally the only reason.
It's narrative. I would have accepted it if the pregnancy was brought up in the first place. Because, yeah, Ellie might not have believed them, but at least it would make some sort of sense, but not like, oh, screw you, Ellie, she was pregnant. Aren't you shit now?
And that's the thing. Ellie actually does show regret. Abby does not in regards to wanting to kill Dina, who, may I remind you, was pregnant just for the sake of making her a liability out in
He
the
was
middle of the
gleeful about that, as Pedro was saying. Like, she was really going for that.
Mind you, that was at the point when the game wants us to like her. Holy crap.
Well, I didn't like her then. I don't like her now. Congratulations, Neil, and everyone else. I forget people's names. I know it wasn't just Neil behind this.
Haley Gross.
Okay, because I'm sorry if that's frustrating people in the audience, but yes, I know other people worked on this game, but Neil is the only, he's been a Naughty Dog for a long time, so he's like a name that's just ingrained in my mind. So I will say Neil, but it's not his fault. I know it's not his fault.
Well, it's not just his fault.
No, yeah, well, yeah, it is his fault, but it's not just his fault. Thank you, Joe. Okay. We talked about a lot of things. So, yes.
Are you done talking about the story?
Unless you have something else that I could.
I was gonna, because I'm just might as well remind you, because what you said specifically during part 1 that you were gonna save your overall analysis, deeper analysis of the accessibility settings for your final thoughts.
That's in the positive stuff.
Okay,
so
then. All right, go ahead then.
This is the negative section.
Carry on then.
In that case, Sheree, I believe you had choice words regarding Ellie just at the last minute flaking on killing Abby, despite it pretty much being in her character to see things through to the end. To paraphrase the makers of Game of Thrones, Ellie kind of just forgot that she likes to see things through to the end.
Well, it's like Pedro said, it was a waste of time. Like, we know why Ellie went to find Abby.
Again, if Ellie never went there, Abby would have been dead. And like I said, they could have maybe just had it be Ellie save and leave Abby to die.
Yes, Jova, but Neil thought to himself, you know what, I can't hand the narrative here. My message clearly hasn't come across quite properly and clearly yet. So I have to prolong this for 3 more hours so I can once again pommel in the head how revenge is bad. So...
It's even worse, but I'll save that for my final thoughts. Carry on.
Neil, I won $100 for every hour we've been here. But anyway, okay, I can also understand her feeling conflicted at the end because Joel is the focus of all this, or rather, he's supposed to be. But why drag us here? She should have just. The ending they had was. I mean, it was abrupt, and after everything that happened, it still wasn't worth it, but at least...
There would have been a point. It would have felt more poignant in the sense that, both of them lost something throughout this whole thing, but at the same time, they also quit where they were headed, and they were able to still find happiness among what they have left. Ellie with Dina, and Abby with Lev.
Yeah. Things are bad, but we would have preferred the ending where Abby wins by beating Ellie the hell up compared to this ending. It's like I said, this game is a constant chain of, well, it could have been worse, but then the what could have been worse actually occurs.
Mm-hmm.
And the original ending would have fit in well with the kind of story Neil is trying to tell. The whole, revenge doesn't solve anything. We've already complained about why that's bullshit. But, both women went their respective ways. They have their families now. I do consider Lev as family to Abby, kind of a little brother sort of thing they got going on there. Like, they could have just left it at that, and that would have been okay. Again, not worth it, but it would have still worked with the narrative. But no, they had to make us suffer. Like, clearly, revenge only leads to misery.
You see what I meant when I said the ending would be worse than the leak suggested?
Well, Shiro, think about it. All you're left with as you finish this game is misery. So there you go. You're just like Ellie right now. Like you see how
I didn't even play it.
So there you go.
Oh my god.
What else could I bring up in terms of negatives that haven't already been brought up?
The sex scene.
I mean, that is what it is. It's just
Again,
like, heat of the moment, I guess. I don't know.
this is a terrible. This is a terrible porno. Terrible.
I did
know,
get some
right?
funny memes out of it, I should say.
Yeah.
There were some that were genuinely funny. But, you know.
Okay, so here's a good question. In regards to, as a couple, how do you feel Ellie and Dina were handled?
Yeah.
They're so average. They are average.
Like I said,
Sorry.
like I said, as soon as they have sex, they immediately become oh, don't you see, babe? I love you, babe. Oh yeah, babe. By the way,
It's
babe,
this
I'm
thing
a Jew.
where-
What?
They went
It's all
from
about-
awkward teenage flirting to what Jova just said.
It's this thing where, and I get that Shiro disagrees with what I'm about to say, but for me, it's one of those things where, again, it's not even it has to do with stories. This is how I think even in real life, because one of the worst things I hate is hearing a couple talk to me about how awesome and perfect they are and how they love each other, because it's so cringy to me, and that's what and that's what Ellie and Dina feel like to me.
I don't know any couple who does that, actually.
Well, in that case, Shiroi, but you're luckier than me. But anyway,
Okay, if a couple does this, in my experience, it's because they actually do genuinely love each other, or they're trying to deny marital issues.
that's
That's
beautiful.
at least my experience.
or it's very young love. You know.
Assuming it's the former, Jova, that's nice. But can you please keep it to yourselves and actually, But it's like for me, it's one of those cases where, to me, okay, and bringing this back from reality back into storytelling, for me, romance in media is at its most interesting while it's developing, because that's when you see the most change from the characters. Don't get me, I'm not saying that it's impossible to tell a good story with an already a married couple. I'm not saying that's the case. It's just that unless you do it kind of like an old couple that's coping with the fact that their prime years are behind them, because I've seen movies like that tell good stories about that, so it's not like it can't be done. But a couple that literally just got married and they're in their honeymoon period, that's where two married characters for me are at their least interesting, because they're just super duper happy about each other and there's literally no conflict whatsoever.
I absolutely get where you're coming from. Like I said, that's sort of a trap that a lot of writers fall into. It's like, oh, the development of the couple is great in the will they won't they phase, but as soon as you get to the they will phase and they get married phase, some writers unfortunately tend to make them just boring or not focus on the relationship.
That's why
the whole thing about the will they won't they thing is that they feel that it's exciting for the audience, and with shipping as it is, it is like they have reasons to think that, and that's why they spend so much time writing the will they won't they, because it's an audience grabber. They have no clue how to write an actual couple.
Like, I can't believe
because when they're in the will they won't they phase, they're not a couple.
Like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but a show as, old as something like Friends, one of the earliest sitcoms of its time, that one actually did it better with Chandler and Monica's marriage. Like, yes, they were two mainstream characters who got married, but the show actually did further things to develop off of their marriage and how it changed the relationship from friends to husband and wife. Like, that show, a 90s show, which, mind you, is sort of the grandfather of a lot of cliches in sitcoms nowadays, was more original than a lot of newer stuff these days.
Carry on, Sherry.
I don't think I have anything else to say in terms of the story, which is where all the negative stuff is. Unless you can think of anything, because we've repeated ourselves throughout this.
What are your thoughts on the pace? Well, actually, you talked about the pacing.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that was the first thing I mentioned.
Okay.
What do you think about the gameplay mechanics of yelling a character's name?
Oh yeah, that.
Well, considering that's part of the story, why not? It's laughable. It's actually funny. I'm sorry.
Is it story or gameplay? Because technically, it happens more in gameplay, and the story doesn't
but it's
really
for the narrative, though. It's to make us feel like, oh, we should be feeling terrible, and what is Ellie doing? And they're attacking her.
That's the thing. That most of the deaths are self-defense. Even the deaths that the game actually cares about are mainly self-defense. Ellie was protecting herself against Mel and Owen. And yeah,
And
sure.
the dog, even.
Yeah. And as for Nora, well, Nora had it coming.
Yeah, because she is, as Ali put it, a fucking cunt. Hey, the words from the game. Go ahead, Shuri.
Yeah, no, I know. There've been worse
I
things.
describe
said
it
in
more
this
as a cow.
game. But I think I can move on from the negatives at this point.
Sorry. What character are we talking about?
Nora,
We were talking about Nora.
Nora.
go ahead.
Well, everyone in this, almost everyone in this game's.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Exactly. Go ahead,
Except
Shuri.
that the baby is innocent, and so is Joel.
And that's only because it's a baby. Really. Oh, go ahead,
If it
Shuri.
was a toddler, it would be stabbing people. Okay.
Well, it's
To the
Undertale Code. You
positives,
don't
though.
have to be that old to stab people.
The music is lovely, as it was in the first game. I do like acoustic guitar, and it's the one saving grace in terms of stuff that that's part of the story set pieces. It's nice that the music is still good, even with didn't they have additional composers or at least one?
One.
Yeah, okay. It's still very, very good, like the original. The acting, as was already brought up, is also very good. Like even from the younger cast members, they did a really good job. The game, like direction, it hasn't been brought up much, but the direction was pretty good. Also, especially in certain scenes, like not just the bit leading
I brought
up
it
to
up.
the fight. Yeah, not just the bit leading up to the fight, but it's happened a few times throughout this. That's actually been pretty good. Also, I'm trying to think if there's anything else before I get to that one thing.
How about the graphics?
I mean, they're apparently lesser than the original, but they're still good. I'm not somebody who's an expert on this, but I appreciate the work that the artists and the designers and such put into this, despite the issues they were having. So
The issue,
one second.
the primary issue with the graphics for me, it's the fact that they look good on their own merits. It's just that it's a step down from Uncharted 4. And that's what because go back and watch Uncharted 4's cutscenes. They look better than any of the cutscenes in this game.
What are you talking about, Pedro? According to Video Game Donkey, Uncharted 4 is impossible to beat, so it was impossible to hope for something better.
Well, what can I tell you? It's like again, maybe the new art team that was hired in mass to fill in for the Max Exodus is less experienced. That maybe that's the problem.
Well, in that case, maybe Naughty Dog shouldn't have scared off the original art team.
Well, yeah, obviously, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
maybe if you treat your staff better, this shit might not happen. Just a thought.
It's like
People leave eventually, but at least make it for good reason.
Yeah, of course, people switch from job to job all the time, but that wasn't why this happened.
It really is.
unfortunately.
Like for my obviously, if you compare this to the graphics of the first game, just by one generation jump alone, obviously it's going to look better. It's just that it's mostly the art direction. I think that's the problem. Well, since that, like we've discussed at the end of part 1, young Ellie's character model looks bad when you can stack it up side to side with the PS3 one, and I have no idea how the hell could that even happen. It feels like even Jova said, Jova's theory is that they took the Ellie character model from this game and they changed it to try to match how she looked like in the first game. The problem is maybe that was the problem because of the problems that this game had in development. Maybe they couldn't afford to just make a brand new young Ellie character model from the ground up, so they had to take the old Ellie model and just reshape it, and that's the problem. It's weird. overall, the graphics look really good for their own on their own merits. They look really good. It's just that compared to Naughty Dog's standards, it falls short. That's the basic gist of it with the graphics. Go ahead, Shuri.
I'm still proud of the artists though, and everyone involved, regardless. I'm not saying you're not, but it's just something I think.
Special shout out goes to the people who made those weapon.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Lord knows
a lot of very nice detail that may not have been necessary, all things considered, but it's appreciated. But yeah, the main thing I wanted to talk about, the accessibility stuff, something that came completely out of nowhere, and
well, remember, Shiro, Neil Druckmann is trying to be super duper inclusive with his stuff. That's the kind of thing that he wants to do, and this is part of it.
This way, now more people can play his magnum opus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing for people in the audience. There's been for a bit of context here. There's been a bit of a divide in the disabled community because on one hand, you have a lot of people who are very emotional about this to the point of actually crying about the fact that they're able to actually do something for a fucking change. But then there are those of us who are like, yes, this is true, and your feelings are valid, but it could have come with a better game.
I know, right?
There's just this conflict here. It's like
that's what I always.
It's like, this is fantastic work on Naughty Dog's part, but we deserved it with a better product.
I know, right?
Oh god.
And that's not even getting to how much the LGBTQ community has turned on this game, despite initially thinking positively of it.
Yeah. In fact, like that's where Swery's game The Missing got brought up a lot, because it's like, don't play this, play that instead. So
yeah,
like, even though this game isn't purely focused on LGBT stuff, it's just a very small part of it, whereas The Missing is like, it's a primary thing with that game. I feel like it just kind of says how crap the rest of this game is, because it's like, this stuff only has minor LGBT stuff, but none of it is worth it. Even the rest of the game isn't worth it. Play an entirely different game that's very different.
I think you're right. For LGBTQ community representation, you get a couple that are incredibly bland and has an incredibly manipulative half in Dina, who just up and leaves after trying to manipulate Ellie, and then you got Lev,
who's purely a plot device. Lovely.
He's pretty much that, and a punching bag for Fat Geralt.
But yeah, and to get back on track with this a bit. The funny thing is that LGBT people, from those I follow on Twitter, did work on this game, just not as consultants or anything. Like, there are a few LGBT people who work as
designers,
artists and such, designers and developers. So yeah, they haven't had anything to say about this aspect. They've actually been pretty quiet, just been casually showing their art, and I think that's the best way to go about it, actually.
That's the thing. Well, here's the thing, Shiroi. I'm assuming you'll agree with me on this. Like, even LGBT people can be bad judges of this kind of stuff themselves.
Oh no, they can. It's probably better for these specific people to probably just not talk about it.
Probably, yeah.
But it just would have been nice to know if they had some kind of consultation, or if Neil was just, again, with head in ass. So, but yes, back to the accessibility stuff. There are only two minor issues with it. Not having image references for each feature, because that's one thing me and Pedro found issue with when we were testing those, is that he had to go back to the actual game, and sometimes even a specific part, like he had to walk forward a little bit to where there's dialogue and such for certain things, just to see if it actually worked, because there were no references in the menu, which I don't understand why that is, because there were some, they just didn't put them everywhere, so that's very weird design. And also the descriptions being very vague.
Yeah.
Like one thing you need to learn about when it comes to describing features that are specifically for disabled people, you need to actually be quite specific about what they do, especially when it comes to people with certain disabilities. It's the information needs to be very clear. And it's not. It was too vague for Pedro. It was too vague for me, and it's too vague for a lot of people.
There's a zoom in feature that is similar to what someone like Shiro usually uses. When when that person is on their laptop or whatever, you know.
Isn't that standard?
Yeah, on-screen magnifiers, yes.
Yeah, on-screen magnifiers. The problem is, and it uses the touchpad. However, the game never really explains in detail how the mechanic works. Me and Shiroi couldn't really figure it out based on what the game tells us. And Shiroi apparently found out how it was. Apparently, Shiroi, didn't someone tell you how it works? I think you told me.
Oh, no, that wasn't to do with that. That was to do with the aiming reticule.
Oh, the aiming reticule. Okay. Well, that's another thing. Yeah, like the game doesn't quite explain things as well as it should. Like, even like at the point, me and Shiroi had trouble figuring out some of this stuff. That's the bit. You forgot the third point, Shiroi. Whenever you're reading any of the many notes that we find over the course of the levels, and we press the read button.
Oh yes, the background isn't dark like it is with the other.
It is somewhat dark, but only halfway dark instead of fully dark. That's the thing. Because in the accessibility settings, you have an option to have either no background for the subtitles, a half darkened background, or a fully darkened background, which is the one we used in this playthrough. But for the notes, we only have a half darkened background, and there's no option to change that, at least from what I've seen, because I haven't found anything about that.
Yeah, you'd think changing it in one area would change it throughout, you know. But that wasn't the case. And I'm not going to say that that's something they just didn't want to include. I'm just going to say that's maybe something they just missed. Because there's a lot in there. Like they probably just, you know, looked over that, didn't really think about it. I'm not going to hold that against them anyway. But this is the only thing in this game that I actually would say is... it's the one standalone good thing, because the other good things I mentioned are good in spite of the rest of the game.
Like
whereas this, yeah, all that kind of stuff, like the acting and everything, it's good in spite of the bull crap. This is something that's good on its own, because this game, as bad as it is for me to say, like. Well, actually, I'm not going to say the game. I'm going to say Naughty Dog. They've set a standard now. This needs to be in every game. I know some will disagree, but there's no reason not to do it.
Well, I agree. I agree.
There might be some incentive actually, because is the Video Game Awards guy Jeff? Is that Jeff, right?
Yeah, Jeff Keighley.
Jeff Keighley.
He's considering adding an accessibility category to the awards.
Oh,
which is honestly something that would actually persuade people
it's an incentive.
Do this properly.
He's trying to cause an incentive.
It's an incentive.
Oh, sure. Allow me, when you're done, tell me, because I actually want to help you with your argument. Go ahead.
Sure. I'll let you speak after I just say this one bit, because I have something else to say, but it kind of moves slightly away from it. So I'll just say this little piece, and then you can say what you wanted to say. But if there's one thing I know about big corporations, video game, like anything, doesn't matter. They love getting praise for the bare minimum. You can do this, guys. You can get awards out of this now, potentially. Do the bare minimum, okay? You get cookies now.
We'll give you a nice shiny trophy.
You get a trophy now. Yes. Anyway, Pedro, you wanted to.
And look at it this way. Since Shiro said that somebody, like, well, I have yet to find anybody trying to make an argument for why we shouldn't have accessibility settings in games. So
talk to the Dark Souls fandom. They'll have plenty of.
Well, okay. See, here's the thing. Okay, see, here's the thing, Shiro. See, while I don't necessarily agree. Let me just explain this to you from a Souls fan, just so I can tell you what the problem people have with it is. The problem is that, and this actually ties what I was about to say anyway. The reason fans are hesitant about it is because people are going to abuse it to render the game's difficulty null. You know, because and this is exactly what I was going to mention about it. Because you see, guys, look at it this way, guys. All of you guys out there that are like me, Joven, Dwebs, who are fortunately don't have special needs. Think of it like this, guys. It's an incredibly easy way to get achievements and trophies. So basically,
especially some of the Last of Us ones, like Pedro laughed at that when we were testing this stuff.
Because basically, to give you guys an idea, because Softpark Project Butthole actually has some pretty great accessibility as well that they added for patches.
I've got different kinds of special needs.
Well, okay, sure, but whatever. For people who don't have special needs that involve these accessibility settings, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, here's what you do, guys. Just make good use of them because they can help making certain frustrating bits better. For example, in Fracture Butthole, Softpark Fracture Butthole, they added a lot of accessibility settings via patches. And basically, guys, there's a mini game that involving button mashing in that game that is incredibly hard. However, thanks to accessibility settings, I can make that incredibly easy on myself. So thanks, game. And so it works. Think of it like this, guys. Think of them as cheat codes. There you go. See, you can think of them as cheat codes.
Yes, so for the people who
there you go.
See,
there you go. See, it helps everybody. See. But anyway, like
I'm sure speedrunners will get a kick. But
well, here's another thing. Like for recently, for example, like Ghost of Tsushima in the accessibility settings has basically there's a mini game in Ghost of Tsushima that involves cutting bamboo with your sword. You know, and involves this incredibly long sequence of buttons that you have to press. All in the exact order, and you have to do it relatively quickly to work. However, if there's an accessibility setting to make it so that you don't have you don't have to do it fast. You can just do it slowly. So there you go. See, guys, look at it this way. Think of it as cheat codes. There you go. See, but yeah, just to like, and not saying that I agree with them, Shirei. But the thing people are constantly saying, one of the big things about the Dark Souls series, and one of the key aspects of it is that it doesn't have an easy mode. As its intention, it's trying to be old school in the sense that you have to, pardon me the cliche, get good, you know. And the issue with that they come from is that people are going to abuse the accessibility settings to get over that the difficulty. That's the big concerning aspect of it. It's not so much because people are against accessibility settings in general, Shiroi. It's more so the fact that it's gonna cause a conflict with the design. That's the problem. I guess
it actually isn't for reasons I'm about to explain.
Well, here's the thing, Shiroi. Let me put it like this: if they make it a setting so that the enemy's AI, like in this game has a setting where the AI cannot see you. Like if they put that in Dark Souls, the game becomes instantly winnable for everybody, and that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. But go ahead, Shiroi. Make a case.
Sure. Here's why that argument is fundamentally flawed, though, because it's one of the most common arguments. There are a couple of things. Going back to, people abusing the system, I would like to be very specific and say, you mean able-bodied people abusing the system?
Sure.
That's not a me. I'm not saying that's anything bad about you or anything. I'm just saying that if you guys are going to abuse this system, that's not really a me problem. I shouldn't have to have less in life because you people don't want to actually play correctly, or how you view as being playing a game correctly. But in terms of the Souls difficulty, the only reason that argument actually works, because it came up with Celeste as well, because Celeste has a pretty good accessibility mode for the type of game that it is. The only reason this argument actually works is because people are talking about these settings very literally. They're removing they're talking, like, say, one of the things in Celeste is you can slow down movement. That would be your movement, the movement of obstacles and such. This goes down in percentages by, it's either 10 or 20. So yeah, eventually it'll stop. But people are like, oh, but that makes the platform really easy then. It's like, no, you're thinking about it too literally. You're not thinking about how this correlates with somebody with a disability. I have no depth perception. Celeste is a game that requires its use. Slowing down the movement is the only way I can play certain sections in that game. Like, to give you an idea, there's one section, because I didn't use the accessibility settings up until a specific point in the game, because there was one section I came to that's actually literally impossible. Because of how my condition works, it is impossible to do, like, on my own with the raw game. So I used it then. And that's the thing, it doesn't make the game easier. This is what happens when you separate disability from the actual assistive tech. That you can't separate it for it to work. You have to think about how it correlates again. Like, these settings don't make the game easier for disabled people. They make the games easier for able-bodied people.
No,
what
sure.
they do for disabled people is give them a chance to be able to play the game at all. They're still going to struggle compared to you. Like, it's not an easy mode. It is not. It doesn't work like that. It is if you use it, not if I use it.
Sure.
It's that, changes to, people think changes to lighting of all things are, cheating in a way for certain games. It's like, well, that's bullshit. But yeah, that's basically my point. You need to, when you discuss this kind of thing, you need the tech and the disability to be discussed in tandem with each other. You can't split them. And that's why these arguments are flawed, because people are splitting them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I have to...
I was about to say, very good speech.
It's
Thank you. I've
it's
been
like
keeping this one deep in the recesses of my mind for a long time. I actually need to thank Noidog for this one.
Yes, Naughty Dog, you awakened the sleeping dragon.
It's like yeah, no, I agree. I actually agree with the idea, like, because if they added that stuff, like, I would just not, like, if I wanted to play the game with the difficulty, I would just not use it.
It's literally
Yeah, you don't need to use it. You can still play the game as you believe the devs intended. It's fine. It's right there.
That's the thing. It's a problem that permeates the Souls community, sadly. But anyway,
No, I'm aware. Any game that's designed with immense difficulty in its mind, like even Celeste is one of those, but that's for a very specific.
It's the same.
Specific story reason.
I can understand that mentality, Shira, because it's people who just completely misconstruct the situation to force their narrative on others, and kind of like the same
first Last of Us to fit the narrative of this game.
Well, that too, yes, but I'm talking about specifically, like for example, people who still to this day try to make the argument that just because there's a couple ones here and there, like Detroit in this game, that Sony only makes quote unquote movies disguised as games, which is absolutely horse crap, because I can literally point to plenty of modern examples. I don't even have to go back to a previous gen. I can just point out to games like Ratchet and Clank, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, plenty of games that don't have that problem, and yet for some reason people still want to completely mischaracterize the PlayStation 4 lineup as as full of that shit, when it is absolutely no. If you actually take a look at the catalog itself and do the counting, no, that's actually a minority of example. So
it
no,
didn't have that great a start, but it has definitely grown to be a lot better.
Also, to say very quickly to the audience, I know when most people bring up these arguments, they're not actively being malicious. They're just not, like, they don't understand why their argument is, flawed, and I've already stated why. Like, only a handful of times have I come across people being actively malicious with this argument. The majority of people are not, and I understand that. They're just people who really aren't good at researching this kind of thing.
All right, are you done, Shirai?
Anything more for your final
I
thought?
believe I'm done.
All right, before I give the baton to Jova, because I know Jova has a shit ton of shit to say,
Honestly,
I'm gonna
Pedro, I don't think my final thoughts are gonna outweigh Shirai or Dlub's on this one.
Okay, then in that case, I'll still get my stuff out of the way right now, because I can be very succinct about this. The graphics are lackluster. The music is good, but not all of it. The gameplay is pretty good, but it has its issues. And the story is complete garbage. Like, 90% garbage. There's 10% of it that's good, but, well...
I'd say 10% is still being too generous, because...
Fine, 95% garbage?
Let's go 96% garbage.
Whatever floats your boat. 96.
Get it? Because the plot ends with Abby and Lev leaving on a nice boat.
Yes, Joe, but that's the joke. Anyway.
You suck, big brain.
Exactly. It absolutely, completely sucks, and it's a complete demonstration of the fall of what was once a great and beloved video game studio. And they and I'm not saying it's impossible for them to turn around, but the first thing they need to do is to fire Neil Druckmann. Neil Druckmann has to go. He has to leave. The problem is he will probably not. So unfortunately, we have to just But hey, I at the very least have good news, as Naughty Dog themselves said. So they are done with Uncharted, meaning they will not ruin Uncharted. So there's the positive thing to say. And as Theo himself said various times in our commentaries, in today's day and age, it's practically impossible to keep a secret in the video game industry because everything leaks. And thanks to leaks, we already know that Sony is building a new San Diego. Sony San Diego. You know how Sony has Sony Santa Monica studio that makes the God of War games? They're making a new Sony San Diego studio in California. And it's being run by former Naughty Dog employees, actually, interestingly enough. And according to reports, they're the ones who are going to continue the Uncharted series. So the Uncharted series is safe from Neil. So that at the very least, we can still enjoy Uncharted despite this debacle. So it's cool. I'm not saying that these new developers will like make amazing work, because they're technically new people. But hey, it's still I'll still take that over Naughty Dog making a new one. So that's good. Aside from that, yeah, game is garbage. Don't buy Ghost of Tsushima instead, because Ghost of Tsushima is literally worth every single cent.
Or penny.
Or penny, or whatever you use. It's okay. Jova, take it away.
I'll just open it by saying that I feel that this game is Cage tier. David Cage tier, if not lower than David Cage. Because, God, Heavy Rain had more choice than this game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, you know what? I get it. Most games, by nature, are technically railroading you. The difference is that they usually have a good enough or fine enough or, hell, a basic enough narrative to mesh well enough with the gameplay. But this game doesn't. That's where I'm going to open up. How the gameplay does not mesh at all with the narrative, because that is arguably the biggest problem with this game. Again, so the narrative is supposedly violence is wrong, the only way you can progress is violence. This is like if the only way to get the pacifist ending in Undertale was to do it the genocide methodology, which would leave one awfully confused, mind you. It just doesn't work. You have NPCs shouting out the names of fellow NPCs, never mind how stupid that is. And in the end, it doesn't even really contribute to the narrative, because the only kills that the narrative cares about are Abby's friends, which, the game treats like a terrible thing, even though Abby's friends are pretty terrible or idiotic people. You know what's sad? The only person that calls out Abby for her behavior is Mel, who is incredibly dumb for being pregnant and getting her dumb ass out into the middle of the battlefield.
Like I implied with my Neil Druckmann caricature, we're not saying that pregnant people that pregnant equals invalid. Of course, pregnant women can still work; they can still do things, but they cannot go to freaking war. Because because the baby will not survive that shit.
Unless you hate the baby and are trying to kill it or whatnot. But
yeah.
Seriously. And here's one question. Why does Owen never have any say in it, since it's his baby? No, they never seem to really touch much up on Owen and Mel's relationship, except for that it's the one thing in the way of Abby having Owen to herself, with this on and off again BS between them.
Yes,
because awful sexy.
Yes, because love triangles are so great.
Like, seriously, that sex scene is so bad that whenever I hear that one music track from Gustavo, so much is on the soundtrack, my mind goes back to it. Now, if there's one thing this game was good for, it is the memes. The memes plastered over incredibly terrible parts of this game, including that very sex scene, to the point where every single frame of that sex scene has some kind of meme version of it at some point. I mean, I guess it's our way of coping with the fact that we saw an eye-bleachingly awful cutscene. No, I don't care that it only lasts for a few seconds. It's terrible. And also, Sony, that means that you really need to stop being hypocrites and stop censoring other games that dare to show nudity, considering how you were A-okay with this game showing it in one of the worst ever sex scenes. God. So... yeah, well, I guess I can give them some credit that they didn't make a QuickTime event for the sex scene.
Sure, it would be nice, like Owen is ramming Abby and you're mashing square.
That'd be a so many game. Who?
Well, David Cage kind of did that.
All right, go ahead.
To get through tight spaces, press the circle button to slide.
Oh god.
Get it? Slide.
Speaking of sliding, this game really slides down the slippery slope of pretty much seeming like it should have just been a movie. Like,
You know, Java, after this, I have to show you a comedy skit that is perfect for your opinion of that sex scene, but go ahead.
pretty much. But yeah, it's like, well, seriously though, I can't believe I'm saying this, but in the career where I have seen several David Cage games, this feels like the game that feels most like it wants to be a movie. Do not get me wrong, David Cage games definitely feel like they want to be movies, but they felt more like games than this game did in the long run of things. Because, be honest, by the time you're playing as Abby fighting against Ellie, unless you like Abby, you're gonna feel disconnected. You're probably gonna feel disconnected. That's how a lot of people felt. Be honest, guys. How did you feel when we were playing as Abby fighting Ellie?
Honestly, Jova, at that point, I just wanted the game to end. I basically completely disconnected from the fucking... I was just going, whatever, I don't even care, just end, you stupid game.
My point exactly, because at that point, you're pretty much just an actor playing out a role that the director blatantly wants you to play through. You know, oh god. And speaking of the puppets at work here, the characters. Okay, Ellie feels at worst like a dick. Like, I get it. You're mad at Joel, but the way she scuffs at him for saving her life, yet she treats Abby... she arguably treats Abby better than she treats Joel in the long run of things. With the few scenes that we have to go off of in regards to how she quote-unquote forgives each of them. God, what a load. Like, oh boy. And then there's Abby herself. Here's the thing. Abby torturing and killing Joel compared to Abby when she's the good guy, those feel like two different characters that the game tries to convince you are the same people. It just doesn't work. If anything, trying to make her seem like a great and good guy after she tortured and murdered Joel feels like a disservice to her character even more when you get down to it. It takes away from any of the suspense and menace she may have had and just tries to whittle her down, and yet it's not gonna be believable. And what's worse, they keep going back to her being a terrible person, considering how she grins sadistically about trying to kill Dina, who, unlike Ellie, she knew was pregnant. And the game expects you to like her. A good game would have been like, okay, nobody is morally above anyone in this situation. Well, okay, technically Ellie still is because she never actually tortured a person. Like, that's the thing. Even when push came to shove, Ellie never did torture anyone in this game. Sure, she killed people, but the game never commits to Ellie being
Java, that was Nora. Remember, we tortured Nora to get the confession out of her, of where Abby was.
Oh, right. I keep forgetting that one because, well, I guess I kind of forgot that one because the game kind of skims over it when you get down to it. But yeah, there was technically Nora, but I don't know. Maybe it's because a lot of it was kind of just off-screen or not really put into that much, but even that feels kind of tame compared to like what a lot of people do. Like, here's the thing. Nora was already dying, and Ellie was pretty much bringing her closer to death. Joel suffered full on right there. Now, that doesn't make what Ellie did right, but compared to what Abby did, Ellie's is... Well, that's the problem. The game tries to suggest that Ellie's become terrible, but like you said, Pedro, they don't commit to it. They do not commit to it. Like, okay, you know what would have been interesting? Have Abby be terrible, yes, but have Ellie actually be warped into this sadistic monster who, like a rabid dog, does have to be put down. Don't get me wrong. Some people probably would have still hated that, but if you had actually committed to it, you could have made an interesting narrative about Ellie truly becoming the villain of the story. I mean, I still... Okay, if all else was still as it was, still would have hated Abby, but it would have been interesting seeing Ellie's descent into becoming something arguably worse than Abby. But every time they have a chance, they chicken out of it. Like, again, Ellie does end up rescuing people, mind you. Like, Ellie, in her quest for revenge, saved more people than Abby ever did. Like, those people from that cell alone are more than Abby rescued. Consider that. Consider that. Even though the game tries to suggest that Ellie is worse than Abby, you could argue Ellie did more good than Abby. You know what would have been an interesting idea? If she actually ignores the people in the cell just for her revenge. Leaves them to burn and everything because she's so obsessed with finding Abby. And the worst part is that at the end, she chickens out. That completely goes against Ellie's character to just chicken out at the very end of revenge. And why? Because it's not what Joel would have wanted? Oh, crap. Okay, Joel... We never do get to figure out if Joel was really the vengeful type. But I do get the feeling that Joel probably would have gone on something of a warpath if Abby had come and tortured and killed Ellie. Like, Jesus. And you know... But no, at that last minute, Ellie backs out. And what's the message? That if you let go of revenge, you'll be better? Well, that's the thing. Ellie's life seems absolutely worse from it. We'll never know. Because if anything, for all we know, getting that revenge might have had Ellie feeling happier by the end. Because look how miserable she is. She's lost her one connection with Joel and everything. It feels sad, feel terrible. Now congratulate us because apparently being miserable was some groundbreaking plot element. Except it's not. It's not really that. You know, speaking of Joel, am I the one who finds it a contrivance that literally the only people that go off in vengeance for him are Tommy and Ellie from the get-go? Like, the only other people that come along are Dean and Jesse, and that's only because they're tagging along for varying reasons. But seriously, you're telling me that Joel wasn't popular enough in the community to get, you know, a band of people involved in trying to track down his killers or whatnot?
Yep.
I guess not. You know, actually, and that brings me to the next topic. There are way too many contrivances in this plot here. Special mention goes to almost everything involving Joel's death scene. Joel literally falls into the laps of his would-be killers, mind you, after saving said would-be killer, who still shows no hesitation about killing him whatsoever, so... Yeah, already making her such a delight of a character. The fact that his killers wear their group's uniforms, the fact that they didn't leave the room covered, the fact that Ellie and company literally just stumble onto that place, despite the fact that it's been told that infected are constantly migrating during the winter here and there. So much contrivances just to kill Joel off. Like I said, it's not because Joel died. It's not just because he died. It's because of how he died. And Joel being that dumb to confirm his own name was incredibly dumb. Like, maybe say that they had, like, a picture of him or something to confirm it. But no, Joel confirms his identity when he could have easily have backed out. And for that matter, it makes Abby look even more dumb. Abby, for all you know, this could have been someone like, I don't know, Joel Swanson or something. In fact, he literally could have lied his way out, and they could have been home free. Or, as far as Abby knew, she could have been killing another innocent person. Which does kind of sort of tie into the thing here. So, Game, you're essentially saying that every NPC we kill is potentially grounds for some other vengeful person to come after us, since when you get down to it, the Abby's dad was just a random NPC from the first game. He did not need a whole story behind him, but they decided to give him one. Even though, like a lot of people said, it would have been better if, Abby had been the daughter of the actual leader of the Fireflies, who actually was more benign than the rest of the Fireflies, and you could argue didn't deserve to die as much as the others, and wasn't in self-defense. But nope, we gotta give random NPC a story because it's subversive? God. So yeah, contrivance is there, contrivance is here, contrivance is everywhere. It just shows how weak the story is, that it needs to be held together by, might as well call it plot contrivance glue. That's what this is. It's a tapestry held together by plot contrivance glue, and it's still coming apart at the seams here and there. As for the gameplay, it's fine. It's fine, but you know what? I'm going to compare it to sort of like an old trusty worn glove. It technically works, but you can see where it's thinning out and where it's getting worn out. I think that's part of why the gameplay might have felt a bit clunky for me compared to the first Last of Us. It's not that anything's changed. It's just that now that I have other games that I've improved to compare to the Last of Us formula, it really shows how the gameplay alone might not be able to sustain it because, well, Last of Us's gameplay is not exactly what I call groundbreaking or even the best. No. There are so many better games you could be playing that do stuff like this, but actually reward you for tackling them differently. And, like I said, maybe it's a sign that Naughty Dog really need to evolve. Like, there should have been actually more choice to the gameplay affecting the narrative, like Sherry mentioned here. Like, why not have something interesting? Like, say you never attack a Seraphite, so when the Seraphites catch Ellie, they say, oh, she's never attacked us before, we should just let her through or whatnot, How stuff actually affected? Like, actually make your actions and consequences feel like actual actions and consequences in the grand narrative. And just because it supposedly is Naughty Dog's format, no, that's not a good excuse. For this kind of plot and narrative, there needed to be the proper gameplay to fit in with it, and I'm sorry, but it doesn't. The music is good, but I'm still going to remember some of those awful scenes whenever I hear that music. That's how bad it is. At least with Sonic 06, I can actually separate the music from the awfulness of those scenes. In fact, some of those scenes actually do work, at least I could say. Oh boy. The accessibility is nice. Good for them. And like Shiri said, should be a standard for games all across the board. That's it. I'm done. I just want to be done.
Alright, everybody, so that was the fall of Naughty Dog.
Yeah. Oh,
I guess, we know that they have a new IP being made for the PS5, made by the B team, aka not Neil's team, so maybe that one has a chance of being good. Who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. At the same time, hopefully we're not that far away from seeing what Sony San Diego is doing, because I'm actually really curious to see if the reports that it's a new Uncharted are correct.
I reckon it's probably going to be new.
A new what? Sorry.
A new God of War.
No. The Sony Santa Monica is the one that makes the God of War games. Dibs.
Well, again, that's not to say that. That's not to say different studios can't do different.
Well, yeah, but right now Cory Barlog and his team at Santa Monica are the ones making the new God of War era.
I keep getting them confused. So.
No. Well, Jova, where does Santa Monica take place? I know that San Diego's in California, but where does Santa Monica? Where is
Well,
Santa
Santa
Monica?
Monica's also in California.
Oh, is it? Well, there you go then. Basically, they're
Well, I mean, California seems to be where Sony are pretty much putting their overall headquarters.
Sure. The basic point is, everybody, let's just see what happens in the future. We'll see how things go. So,
Let's hope
see ya.
it's better than this.
Surely, hopefully. Go ahead. See ya, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey all, Theo here. So, Pedro asked me a consultation over the injuries that some characters get in The Last of Us Part 2. Keep in mind, as usual, that my medical profession is limited. I'm not technically a proper doctor. Therefore, if you find a more accurate opinion from an actual professional, please give that the priority it deserves. But for the time being, just, leave it with what I'm about to say. Surprised he didn't ask Jova's mother about this. First case is a situation where Ellie becomes the victim of a trap, and when dangling from a rope tied to her foot, she gets stabbed by a sharp branch. She loses a lot of blood, falls unconscious, and when she gets up, she manages to take on the two people who made the trap while still struggling. Now, judging by the position of the stab and how the characters behaved, I could easily believe the branch punctured the liver, which is a fortunate case since it's an organ that can be abused and cut for like 80% of its max approximately, and it will manage to regrow in time. I'm not sure about the blood loss and burst of energy though. I can't believe in an adrenaline rush, and the fact that the branch did not hit the lungs or her heart means she probably hasn't lost much blood. But it's still an iffy situation, so I don't know. Suspension of disbelief, I guess. Second case is when Tommy is confronting Abby on a theater stage, and in the ensuing confusion, she manages to supposedly shoot him in the head. And we don't see him afterward. We cut to some time later and he turns out to be fine, but has lost an eye in the process. Now, for this one, I'm basing myself on how the cutscenes have been directed, which shows that the trajectory of a bullet might, emphasis on might, and not hit the brain and just graze the temple in a diagonal way, which will explain the recovery and the loss of the eye at the same time. However, there are no real traces of scars on Tommy when he shows up again, so it really is confusing. Just bad directing or a bad take with mocap that you're forced to keep in, I don't know, and I don't really care. And that should be it. Call me back when we'll make an actual Savage Starlight video game. Maybe that would actually be fun. Toodles!